I was just wondering, how can you tell if you have like a difference of opinion versus arrogance?
Well, fundamentally, every difference of opinion you have with God is arrogance with God, isn't it?
Right, but just with another person, just like, you know, in general society, like you're talking
so
to
every
somebody
difference
and
of
you have
opinion you
difference
have
of
with a
opinion.
person,
Yeah.
Obviously you need to figure out whether it's a difference of opinion with God or not. See, so if you're arrogant, you'll go, no, my opinion is my opinion and it's right. But if you're humble, you'll go, maybe I need to find out whether my opinion is God's opinion in this matter. Now, many of you automatically believe your opinions are God's opinions. And that's a huge problem. That's a lot of arrogance to believe that. Right? The person who's humble is willing to see that everything that they know might need to be changed tomorrow. And so therefore they are not addicted to it. Their worth isn't married to it. Does that make sense? When you have an opinion and you haven't found out whether it's the same as God's, then you are automatically in a state of arrogance. Right? Unless you have the view that I might have to change this tomorrow. Now, when somebody comes along and has a difference of opinion with you, you would listen to their opinion and then you would assess it with the knowledge or the conscience or the connection you have with God, whether that's true or not. Now, you know, a lot of times you'll find your opinion is not true and nor is theirs. So both of you are wrong, in other words. Yeah.
And if you have a feeling of superiority about that opinion, or you feel you need to force that opinion on someone else, you're already in a state of arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you feel you need to argue about it, you're in a state of arrogance. If you feel you need to forcefully present it to someone when they haven't asked you, you're in a state of arrogance. It's really interesting because we get a lot of people come up like after events and during events and they say, oh, did you know, I feel that you were wrong here and you were saying this and you were saying that, but really it was it. And I say to them, did I ask you for your opinion? And they say, no. And I say, well, I don't want to hear it. And they think that's arrogant, but I'm just saying, you forcing me, your opinion upon me, is automatic proof that you're arrogant. Right? Now, if someone comes up to me and after I've asked them to give me some advice, which is the exercise of my will to do so, I'm happy to receive it. But if someone comes up to me trying to force their advice upon me, can you see, that automatically means they are arrogant, because they never asked whether I want that advice or not. Does that make sense? So anybody who tries to impose upon your free will to change your opinion is automatically arrogant. Now, I'm not doing that with you. I invite you to a seminar that's free and you come on your own volition. I then presume from that you coming that you want to hear what I've got to say.
But we don't come and knock on your door and say, here I am, I've got some things to tell you.
We're not preachers like Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your door, which is actually a state of arrogance, is it not? That someone can presume that they can knock on your door and browbeat you with their teachings. Right? It was something I used to do. But once I realised it was against love and against free will, I had to stop. It felt so bad in my soul that I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah.
I have a question. So yesterday when we talked about the spiritual sins and the wrong beliefs,
yep.
Like we gave the example of if I tell the truth,
correct.
If I tell the truth, then I will be attacked.
Yeah.
And in that case, not acting was the addiction, and then acting would trigger the addiction, and then I could feel the fears, and then I could choose to be humble.
Correct. So that's a circumstance where you're sitting down, people are asking you your opinion, and you won't voice it because you're afraid.
Right.
right? So that's not the same thing as what I'm saying here.
Yeah. So the other part of the question is that,
Yep.
so that's one example
Yes, it is.
of wrong, of sin, and but the
of
other
the spiritual sin.
of the spiritual sin.
Correct.
Now, the other example of spiritual sin would be this one where when I act, I'm acting. If I act on the sin,
I'm
then-
forcing my belief upon you.
and then I have then to challenge the addiction,
Yeah.
I have to use my self-awareness, or in the case I have to not act.
Yep.
I have to not act, and then that's
stop
going to
the
trigger the
addiction.
addiction.
That's
So it's
right.
the opposite than the other.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Correct. It is. And this is why people get a little confused at times, you see, because they go, well, on one hand, he's saying tell the truth, but on the other hand, he's saying don't do it. And I'm not saying don't tell the truth here, am I? I'm saying don't force the truth upon another.
And also don't have the belief that
That you're superior.
knowledge makes you superior.
That's
or
right.
anything makes you superior, actually.
So if I'm motivated to tell you a truth because I think I'm better than you, and I think you don't know things that I know, and it makes me feel good about myself to put you down a bit and put you in your place, right? Then you can see that I'm very flawed with regard to love, can't you? But if I wait for you to ask a question, just like the one you just did, and then I give you a response, well, that's a loving thing to do, to give you a truthful response, so to not falsify my response, right? That's a loving thing to do. So you can see that it really means that I need to assess my motives. You can see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If my motive is to become like a cult leader, right, then that would be a terrible motive, and I would need to stop straight away.
You need to sit down.
Yeah. Sit down. This is what I would need to do, right? But if my motive is to share what I know to be truth for certain with you, even then, if you're not asking for it, then I should sit down and shut up. So Mary knows that in circumstances where nobody wants to hear a truth about me or about our life or about God's truth, I am pretty silent. So many of you see me talking a lot because you see me at a seminar, right? But in practice, I don't actually talk a lot, right, in my day-to-day life. I wait for opportunities to share truth that other people give me. Now, sometimes I pray for those opportunities. So last night I actually prayed for the opportunity to raise this issue and also raise the issue with some of you individuals that I can feel extremely arrogant. And you've already given me that opportunity. So I see that as God answering my prayer. Does that make sense?
But for many of you, if we go back to the example of yesterday with telling the truth, many of you aren't even just truthful about your own feelings or
To yourself,
desires to yourself, but in a social situation, you're prone to just hiding. So part of truthfulness is transparency.
Yeah.
So if it's a lot of you agree with things or laugh at a joke that you don't think is funny, now we're sinning. This is me not telling the truth. If I'm honest, I won't laugh at a joke I don't think is funny, or I'll say, I don't want to hear about that if I'm in a social situation.
Yeah.
But all of these things are examples of telling the truth where you might actually be afraid, but it's just you being yourself.
Yeah. It's not the
That's more
same
like
as you being
yesterday.
arrogant and forcing what you believe to be the truth.
It's not a power game with people around you. It's just a self-expression.
Yeah.
So can I ask another follow-up question on that?
Sure.
So if the behavior of the person is affecting us directly,
Yeah.
but I am arrogant, like I feel this is my case, but like if I am arrogant and I have the sense of like I want to say something to a person that I feel like it's affecting me,
Yeah.
then in that case, do I like not talk because then I'm going to engage the...
Well, can I answer that? The very first thing is to analyse your own heart. And this is something most people don't do. They instantly react based on the instant addiction not getting met, right? And they instantly react. And they always justify the reaction, but they don't analyse their heart, their desire to react. So if you if you've done something to harm me, I've got to look at my desire to react and how I'm thinking I should react. Now, if I am in complete harmony with God's love, I won't even have to think about it. I will do whatever is the loving thing in the circumstance. But if I'm not yet there, which is where the difficulty arises. See, when I'm in harmony with God, to the point where I'm at one with God, everything I will do will be in complete harmony with the way God would do it. Make sense? So I don't need to even think about it. I just go ahead and do it in that state. But when you're in a state of sin, you can't do that. Because in a state of sin, you know that there's sinful emotions coming up in you, percolating up in you, caused by the particular event. And how you're going to react now is going to depend upon how much you listen to your sin. Right? Now, if I decide to listen to let's say my sin is, I don't like getting put down, so I'm going to put down somebody if they put me down. Let's say that's my sin. So you say something to me and it feels to me like a put down. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to find something in you, put you down. Right? Now imagine if we were a couple, like a married couple, and I raise an issue with you that's valid, but you feel like it's a put down. You're going to be very tempted to find a hole in me that you feel is valid and attack me for that, rather than actually feeling about what I've said to you. Right? So these reactions are all based upon addictions, so therefore unloving. Now, if I was loving, I would first be, and I wanted to love. So let's say I'm still a sinner, but I want to love. The very first thing I'm going to do is, I feel really annoyed with that. I feel that's really annoying, actually. So the very first thing I'd have to do is work out why I'm so annoyed. Before I open my mouth, I need to find out why I'm so annoyed, why do I feel like reacting, and is that feeling I have actually loving? Right? Now, many of you will think, I'm being put down, so it's loving for me to, go on the defense or go on the attack. But that's not true, actually. From God's perspective, it's not loving to attack anybody, even if you're being attacked. So it's not loving to attack them. It's loving to say a truth, but not loving to go on the attack in order to denigrate them. So in the first century, for example, when I was asked, or when I was attacked or put down, and I would just state the truth. I didn't have any feelings of feeling bad about myself or feeling like I needed to defend myself or defend my actions or any of those things, but I just enjoyed saying the truth. So whenever somebody talked to me, even if it was a put down, I thought, good opportunity to say some truth. They've engaged me. They've talked to me specifically. So the Pharisees used to do this all the time. They used to find me in a city, a lot of times in Jerusalem when we were there, and they'd come up to me and they'd ask me tricky questions, what they thought would be a tricky question that I wouldn't be able to answer. And they did it in public every single time because they thought they had an opportunity to put me down. Now, I didn't go, you're just trying to put me down, what are you doing? You're just trying to... I never did any of that. I knew what they were doing, and I was confident in that assessment because I had God's assessment of what they were doing. And all I needed to do was just say some truth. So I'd answer their questions in public. Now, of course, given the fact that all the answers were logical, they were pretty annoyed by all of that. In fact, what happened is every time they tried to pull me down in public, I ended up with more followers. More people listening, and that really annoyed them. So after a while they realized we can't do that anymore. We can't just come up there and put him down all the time and let him talk, because if we let him talk he's going to say logical things, and if he says some logical things everyone around him is going to think he's being logical, and then they'll listen more to him. Right? So we can't do that. So they worked out after a while they stopped doing that. Instead what they did then is they sent assassins. So I had 4 attempts of my life before my passing, and because of that, right? Because they got sick of trying to talk to me and put me down. They thought initially that they would be able to do that, and everyone would go, yeah, he's an idiot, and he's just another one of these guys. In my day, in the first century, there were lots of people claiming to be the Messiah. most of them ended up like I ended up, in the sense of hanging on a cross or a stake. And that's how the Jewish Sanhedrin and the Romans treated them generally. Many of them, of course, were violent, and I wasn't. But in the end, we were all pretty much treated the same way, all the people who claimed to be the Messiah, including myself. But the difference for me was I didn't feel like I had to get violent with them. I didn't feel I had to attack them in return. In fact, the feeling I had was they're my brothers and sisters, and, whatever opportunities they give me to talk to them, even if it's done in a poor motive on their part, if it's in a good motive on my part, then things will work out. So it really depends on the motivation, is the answer to your question. And if the motivation is to defend yourself, then already you're sinning.
I think sometimes the motivation is to change, so I don't.
Sorry?
I'll just change that.
Sometimes, to change, so I don't have to maybe feel.
Of course, that's a big reason for people telling other people truth, is to try to get them to change.
Yeah.
That's not a good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a good reason. Free will honours the fact that they may not change. When you give them an opportunity to hear truth and they decide they don't want to change, well, that's their decision, right? Then you need to make a decision. Well, what are you going to do about that? So if it's your partner and they don't want to change, well, at some point you might have to leave them if they're going to keep doing things that are unloving towards you. But you wouldn't have a fight and drag down arguments with them, and you wouldn't be denigrating them and pulling them down the whole time before you leave them and after you leave them, and you wouldn't do all of that. You would just leave, right? That's how a person who loves somebody acts. They don't enter a war. They are peaceful. Yeah.